Jesus invites us to shift the way that we see reality from always thinking about things through a worldly perspective to thinking through a kingdom perspective. It's quite a story, that feeding of the 5,000 men and all the others that were there. How would we have felt in the midst of that? If we could get close enough to the front and watch Jesus take the 2 fish and the 5 loaves, and all of a sudden you see all the food that's happening. I mean, it's quite a miracle, right? And at the end of that passage, we see the people responding. They want to make Jesus king. Well, that's a good thing, right? Not quite. Because the kind of king they wanted to make him wasn't quite what he had in mind. Skip with me down to verse 25. And we see him put his finger on a second shift. It says in verse 25, when they found him on the other side of the lake, you see, after he'd fed the 5,000, he took off and he wanted to be quiet, be with his father, and then he went on the water, he walked on the water, and we just don't have time for that story this morning. But they found him on the other side of the lake, and they asked him, Rabbi, when did you get here? And then Jesus puts his finger straight to the issue. Very truly, I tell you, you're looking for me not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him, God the Father has placed his seal of approval. Shift number 1 is how we see things. Shift number 2 is who or what we're seeking. Jesus knows full well the kind of king they want to make him is a king that will supply all their needs and take care of the needs or the issues with the Romans. He'll set them free from the Romans and then sort of make this great big buffet like he's just done, and life will be wonderful. And he goes, that's not the kind of king I'm going to be. You want me more, he says, because of what I will do for you than for who I am. Is that not a penetrating question? Who are we seeking? Used to be when I was growing up that people would say the gospel is about going to heaven when you die. Help people to pray to receive Jesus into their heart so that when they physically die, they'll go to heaven. Now, we've talked lots about that. We know that there's a whole big thing missing here about what is Jesus, who is he now in our life here, not just after we die physically. But I think we've made another mistake. I think we've shifted out of that one into something else in our sort of contemporary churches. I'm not just pointing the finger at us. I think we've made the gospel about what will Jesus do for me now to make my life better now. It's almost as if we've promised people, follow Jesus and life will go well. We know that's not true, don't we? We know, in fact, it's often the opposite. Jesus begins to speak to this group of people. After he's put this finger on the issue, he pushes them. And he says, I want you to think through who you're seeking. So they come back to him, as we always do. We always push back. And they push back and they say, what do we need to do to sort of be on the right side of you? What do we need to do the works of God? You know that question's ridiculous, right? What's the answer? What do we need to do? Nothing. There's nothing we can do. It's as if somehow we think it depends upon us, our agency. Then they push him back again. Well, okay, if it's not about what we do, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to prove it? I mean, Moses, one of the greatest leaders of our history, Moses delivered us manna. And how does Jesus respond? Oh, people, it's not you. There's nothing that you can do to make God love you any more or any less. It's not even about Moses, even though he was a great leader, because Moses didn't bring you the manna. Who did? My Father. And so now he says, once again, my Father is supplying, not just bread like manna that will perish, but bread that will go for eternal life. What is that bread, they say? Now, scholars debate a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I side with those who think in verse 34, the crowd is being sarcastic. Oh, you're going to feed us bread so that we never have to eat again? I'll sign up for that. I'll have some of that. And Jesus says, no, it's me. I am the bread of life. I don't just fill you physically, although he cares and will. No, I bring life to the fullest. So I invite you to come to me, he says in verse 35. Come to me. What's that mean? Pursue me with everything that you've got. And believe in me. Put it all into action. Have confidence in me and put it into action. See the world differently. Not just physical needs, but the spiritual needs. Hey, ETC in Forest Grove, let's get our heads up and look around and see what God's doing. And then let's begin to look inside and say, who are we seeking and why? Is it so that he'll make our life better? Or, no, because he's worthy. Pursue me and put all that I've taught into practice. So go back around the tables again. A few more minutes. What evidence is there in our lives that we're seeking Jesus, not just for what he can do for us, but for who he is? I'll come back and we'll do part 3 in a few minutes. Back around the tables. So if you've been to the house where Shelley and I live, you'll know that we're on a block where there are three houses on our side. And the middle house has 2 dogs. Our house has 2 dogs, and the other house has 2 dogs. The difference is that, Jim, how much does Bennett weigh? 74 pounds. Okay. So in our home, the dogs are less than that. In the other end of the street, the dogs are, well, actually they have 3 dogs, don't they, Shelley? They have 3. 2 of them are close to Bennett's size, and one of them's quite small. But the 2 dogs in the middle house, they each weigh north of 180 pounds. So I'm not kidding, one of them's a Great Dane, and when our dogs come out, the Great Dane comes up to the fence and puts its front legs over the fence so that its armpits are sitting on top of this 6-foot fence. That's how big this dog is. Now, you can imagine when that happens over and over and over and over again. The other dog's a bull mastiff. That dog is like thick. And it runs at the fence and just smashes into the fence. So on the other side, they got fed up of all that happening, and they went out and spent $12,000 just on a fence on that side to keep the dogs out. Now, on our side, well, if you saw a picture of our fence right now, a fence that Mark helped us to put in, it's now got boards and cardboards and bricks and all kinds of things, trying to somehow band-aid this fence together, because their dogs come into, like after banging into this fence 100 times, they come into our yard and they run all over the plants and do all kinds of other things in our yard, which we don't need to get into, but you get the idea. So, what do we do? Now, before you say things out loud like Robson Park did, I'm using this as an illustration of what Jesus was teaching us. How do Shelley and I see this differently? Because I know how to see it from a world's perspective. We're just ticked off. And we want the guy to put it right. And we want to call the city. And we have rights, you know. How do we see it from a kingdom perspective? What could that look like? Because Jesus says, get your head up. Watch. Look what I'm doing. It's so hard. And how do we seek him? Not pray things like, hey, God, could you kind of help this neighbor to move? Or maybe fix the fence? Or how do we seek Jesus in the midst of this? Skip with me down towards the end of chapter 6, about verse 60 through 69. And again, we're not going to go verse by verse. There just isn't time to do all that today. But, you know, this third place that Jesus has us land, he just basically says this: it's just hard. This idea that following Jesus is easy or makes our life easy is crazy. It's the opposite. I mean, Jesus stands there in front of this crowd and he says, hey, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can't have anything to do with me. And so what do you think people are going to do? Hey, unless you start seeing the world through kingdom lenses, and it's not about your rights and getting ahead in life, it's actually about my kingdom. That's hard. And what do people in the story begin to do? They leave. Well, who wouldn't? So Jesus says to Peter, you going to go too? Can you imagine the emotion in that scene? Jesus, where would we go? We've seen the world through the eyes that you're talking about. We've pursued you. We know. We know that the world has absolutely nothing to offer us that's anywhere near who you are. You have the words of eternal life. But friends, don't be mistaken. It's hard. I mean, all of Jesus' ministry, people were leaving him. The rich young ruler comes, and what does Jesus say? Hey, what do I got to do to get in? Go and give away all your money. All? I thought it was just 10% I had to give. No, give away all your money. And then come follow me. Well, I can't do that. I got quite a bit, so I better not do that. Or the religious leaders. They wanted to dot I's and cross T's. They wanted to be right all the time. And Jesus was like, yeah, and in the midst of that, what have you done? You've blown things up. You've ruined relationships. Or some of the lawyers, people of the law. Hey, Jesus, who's my neighbor? In other words, who do I not have to pay attention to? Like, can I be friends with the neighbors 2 doors down who have built that fence and kind of skip out the middle people? No, you can't. Everyone's your neighbor. The people that are in need, the people that especially live next door to you with 2 really big dogs. Just before Luke 10, when he sends out the disciples, in Luke 9, we see this. 3 men come along and say, well, we'll follow you. The first guy says, I'll follow you. Just tell me that, could you lay out where we're going to be staying, what kind of hotels and the diners we're going to eat in? And Jesus goes, we sleep outside sometimes. Well, yeah, that might be tough. The next guy, how about, I'm going to bury my father. Your dad's not even dead. No, come follow me now. The third guy, just let me go home and say goodbye to my friends. No. Anyone who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit. Friends, it's hard. It's hard for them then, and it's hard for us now. Many of us know the pain right now of some financial issues, right? We live in a difficult world. Jesus demands our all. Not just a little bit, our all. And Shelley and I could say, well, we tithe, so we're okay, right? No, we're just as guilty as everybody else. What good is it if we just give out of our comfort? Or prayer. Well, I pray. I'm okay. Yeah, but Cam, way too often you pray when you're at the end of yourself rather than at the beginning. Or forgiveness, right? I've forgiven most people. It's hard. No, we have to forgive everyone. Otherwise, we run the risk of not being forgiven ourselves. Peter, everybody's leaving. It's too hard. It's too hard to see things differently. It's too hard to seek me for who I am. It's too hard to give up everything and surrender all. Are you going to leave? I can't. I've tasted that it's too good. You have the words of eternal life. You know that eternal life is not just going to heaven when we die, right? No, it's the reality of life to the fullest now, the length and the quality. But could I offer this one thing before we take communion together? I think some of this has to do with a switch in how we keep score. I know sometimes we feel like, hey, there's lots of churches that are bigger than we are. Since when did Jesus keep score of how many people were sitting listening to his teaching? Didn't he teach to keep score with those who had surrendered their lives? Why don't we work on that part and let him take care of the rest? We see things differently. We seek him only And we count increasing numbers of us that have said, nothing will get in the way. I won't leave you for anything. I'm going to invite, if you don't have, well, you don't have, so I'm going to invite you to come. And could you grab some bread? You may have to take it back on a napkin, and grab a number of cups. Might have to take the tray and hand them out at your table, but we're going to do communion around tables. And so if you could come get bread, no jam this time, let's just do plain bread, and cups of juice, and share the bread in the cup, eat his flesh and drink his blood, so that we may have a part of him. Have communion around the tables, and then we'll come and the team will lead us in a closing song.